Welcome to the Front Porch Podcast, where we have intimate, intergenerational conversations to connect, build, and learn from each other. I am Mikkel Brands Oliver, a millennial, and my lovely co host is Candace, a Gen Xer. And on this episode, we're heading to the front porch to talk about money, 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 financial health, and fitness. Candace, who's joining us on the porch today for this much needed conversation?
Much needed is right. Joining us on the front porch today are Jamille Thomas and D.A. O'Neill. Thank y'all for joining us on the Front Porch Podcast today. I'm ready for this conversation because we need to get with this money thing and get folk together. So thank y'all for joining us.
Thank
Pleasure
you.
to be here. Pleasure to be here.
So how about we start with Jamil, and if you all will just tell the audience a little bit about yourself and what generation you are a part of.
So that's so funny, right? I don't know that I could be labeled with a generation. I kind of lay across all of them, but definitely
That's right.
right there with that millennial Gen X, kind of right there together. Um, I am Jamille Thomas, and I am an educator by degree. That's what I tell people. I've been in education for 2 decades. Over the years, I have learned how to fuse financial literacy with my skills from coming from education to really help people build financial wealth and just to establish finances as a norm in their life instead of a negative thing. And so I've been blessed. My husband and I are here in Arkansas, and we've been blessed to be a part of an incredible team. We have a company called Thomas Legacy Services, where we, in essence, just help people put together a plan from the time they get their paycheck until what we call end of life planning. So here I am. Thank you for having me.
Oh,
Gotcha. And I am D.A. O'Neill. I am a millennial. And I work in financial services as well. It's funny because work in financial services, but I like to think of myself as an educator because where I'm passionate about is educating people about the language of money, rather than selling anything. There's not anything we sell, but I'm from Carrollton, Georgia. I'm currently reside in Birmingham, where my lovely wife and 4-year-old daughter. We relocated here during the pandemic, and I'm a part of a independent financial services firm called IMC Financial Consulting, where we wear a lot of different hats, but my hats specifically revolve around financial education. We are actually in some schools here in Birmingham and some other places where we're teaching financial literacy. And my title is defensive planning specialist. So all things protection, legacy planning, estate planning, things of that nature. That's pretty much where I have a foot in our operations in that space. So happy to be here and excited to talk about money.
I'm
good.
excited to hear about some money.
Yeah, I mean, we got the experts. We going to school. We going to
Right.
school. We
Let's
got
get
the
it.
educators and the experts here for sure. All
That's
right,
right.
so Jamil and Da, we have something called rapid fire before we really dig into the topic. So with this rapid fire round, you're going to fill in the blank. I'll give you the sentence, but fill in the blank with the first thing that comes to mind. And we'll start with Da on this one. You ready?
Okay. I'm ready.
All right. I wish someone would have told me blank about money.
It's rapid and I'm taking my time. I wish someone would have told me the language of money.
Mm.
And I'll elaborate. What I mean about that is the way that I was brought up, we place value in money, but I think money is the tool. So if you understand that it's a tool, your emotions are not is tied to it, I think. And it's very hard when you've grown up a certain way with a certain mindset. You have to kind of unlearn a lot of the things that you learn about money, because you'll often hear people say, if I just had this amount of money, I would do this. But if you don't have the discipline, the intentionality, and the principles with $10, you're gonna be the same way with $1,000.
Come on.
Mm.
So So
on,
that,
sir.
that's the first thing that comes to mind. It's
That's
standing where I'm standing
scripture and
today.
verse.
Yes.
Come on now.
Yes. Yes. Jamille, what about you? What did
So
you feel
for
about?
me, very related to that, I wish someone would have taught me the strategy of money. Like DA said, definitely using it as a resource to get where you're trying to go. I think so many times we're taught to get a job and a career, but nobody tells us about having a plan for the money, right? We just get the money. And so, what is the strategy to be able to get where we want to get using money as the resource and tool?
The language of money and the strategy of money. Come
Right.
on, book titles.
Right. Exactly. Mikhail, what do you say? What do you wish someone would have told you about money?
Hmm. I'm gonna alter it a little bit. I wish I would have listened to my mother earlier when she told me to save my money. Saving my money and it doesn't have to be an astronomical amount, but to pay yourself first.
Mhm.
I'm still struggling with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
It's so
Yeah.
funny you say that because I was even thinking about the question as relates to saving, and I kind of wish I knew more about that I would have been taught maybe more about what to do with my money other than saving. Like I knew the idea of it. That does not mean that I did it. Let me just correct myself. Let me correct that. But just what more can I do with my money? What more should I be doing with my money? In addition to the fact that the reality that being poor is expensive.
Hmm.
Come on.
And it's money related, and it's health related. I mean that
Mhm.
it's expensive, and so there's a lot to know about money, as you all said, as a resource, as a tool. But
Yeah.
there's so much more that you can actually do with it to have to enrich your life and to, I don't know, maybe support and enrich the lives of the people around you.
Yes.
Yes.
sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yep. 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 Yep.
So I needed a whole lot of lessons.
And the earlier you save, the more you have the ability to grow. And to your point, once you learn how to save, your best investors are your best savers.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Mm.
They're just
Okay.
they're
Okay.
moving money from one bucket to another once they fill one up.
Mm. Hmm.
I still haven't learned that well. Okay. Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm supposed to be asking the next question. I was processing. Okay. Um, so here's kind of the question to get us started with this topic. So, if you all will tell the audience just how do you define financial freedom?
Mm.
How do you define that? Let's start with Jamil. How do you define financial freedom?
Now that I've had the opportunity to walk in it, I think financial freedom to me is the end result of being disciplined with your money and resources. Um,
Mm.
because when the discipline is there, I always hear like a lot of people in that train for different things, right? Especially in the world of athletics. And they always talking about I have to be disciplined, right? There's a diet, there's some type of structure they have to have. And then the end result is the success of the medal, the award, or whatever. And so for me, financial freedom is the reward, the medal that I get from being disciplined with my resources.
Mm.
Mm.
Spoken like a true kindergarten teacher would say
I love it.
Like,
I love it.
okay.
Yeah. Spoken like somebody, as you said, walking in financial freedom was saying.
Right. Right.
You made it clear, or you made it plain, and you made that thing happen, honey. Yes.
Right.
Mhm.
So I would define it as being able to live out your purpose without financial strain.
Mm.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay.
I don't think it's, from my experience, I don't think it's necessarily tied to an amount, because everybody's situation is different. What may create financial freedom to me may make someone else feel poor. But if you're able to put a plan together and maintain the discipline that allows you to live your purpose without financial strain. I think that's what financial freedom means to me.
Yes.
Mm.
Okay. Again, processing.
As I
Mhm.
said, I like the way you
let me
process.
let me take some notes while I'm processing. Take a
Right.
few notes. Audience, let me just say this to the audience. I hope y'all have a pen and some paper or your notebook, your tablet, or whatever, so that y'all can take down some of these nuggets of wisdom.
So how have you all experienced working with clients, working within your families, your own lived experiences? How have you experienced the mindsets and behaviors around money shift across generations?
Am I going first on this one? I got you. So you said based on our own experiences and dealing with clients.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll start with my own experiences first. I think the generational shift that has occurred with just my family is going back to my grandmother, because that's as far back as I can go from an intimate relationship of remembering. She did everything that she knew based on the education she had, right? And I think her role was to make sure a roof was over everybody's head, make sure that food was on the table, and she did that. She did an immaculate job at it. She was a rock of our family. And then I think her children, my mom and my uncles, I think their mindset was to create a better opportunity for us than they had, right? And then I think my generation, myself and some of my cousins included, I'm an only child, so I think our mindset was the first one around like creating generational wealth, or creating an opportunity to really leave something behind, with the information and access that we have today. From a client experience, I've seen that people my age, but now let's throw age out. People that I've had the opportunity to work with, the ones that have foundational principles that were laid, they are much further ahead than those who have had to kind of figure it out on their own and go through the knee scrapes. Because it's funny, some of the things that I'm doing now. I have a daughter, and I feel like the things that we're implementing, when she gets in a space, hopefully a long time from now, where she has kids, I think it's going to be like, Dad, what was that you did for me? Because she's going to remember if she decides to go to college, there's going to be something there for her to pull from outside of student loans. When she gets ready to embark on a union and purchase a first home, there's going to be something in place to make sure that she's not having to go into a ton of debt for that. So I think creating those things, because I've seen it from my clients, I've seen people be in a situation where when they get out of college, there's already a bucket of money there to put towards a down payment on a house. So it's not about them having to make a certain dollar amount to move forward in life. It's already there, And then I've seen the other side where, even I'm a Black male, and there are numerous times where we may see or have the person in our lives we want to spend the rest of our life with, but we feel like I got to be at a certain place before I'm even able to get there. I got to get my house in order before I'm able to lead my own with someone else. And so, those are some of my experiences, just seeing not only mind shift, but just a foundation that's already there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot. The foundation piece, definitely.
Yeah. What are you, in your example, DA, you said, like having a trust fund or having those resources that could be used for a deposit on a house. But like in terms of the principle, what are some of those, like, what's one foundational principle that you believe was like seeded in those households of the clients that you've had, where they've had those, that access and cushion?
I think lifestyle, I think we talked about earlier, saving. A lot of the people that I've had the opportunity to work with that have done well, they don't have to drive the best looking car or have the most expensive items, garments on. I've had a client that drove a Honda Accord and made 7 figures. You would never known it. So
Because they smart.
they smart. Yeah. And we
Got it.
as a race, we've been consumers
Mm,
more than owners, right?
mm,
So just I would say that would be the shift in the mind. That's it right there.
yeah.
Being ownership versus consumership.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
That's good stuff.
Good question.
What would you add to that, Jamille?
For me, generationally, I can even step back to my great grandparents, but there was never any money to pass along. Like my
Mm,
great grandfather worked in the cotton fields, and so when he passed away, there was no money to pass along. And back then, because I mean, he was born in 1909, and so he didn't have access to life insurance policies and things like that. So there was nothing to leave, right? Same thing with my grandmother. My grandmother came from a time, she was born in the 1930s, where they didn't trust other people to have access to their monies. And they also didn't trust if a life insurance policy was really going to do what it said it was going to do, right?
Yeah.
So then I fast forward to my dad, who was born in 48, 1950s, who now, is working and providing for a family. And my mom actually passed away when I was 17. And just in me being an adult and learning about financial literacy, I said, Dad, why didn't mom have life insurance? And Dad said, we only could work to make enough money to pay for you all to live in this house, right? There was no extra. And so, now look at my dad. He's 75 and he does not have life insurance. He has made good choices with his money. And it's really funny. It wasn't until I actually started taking financial literacy courses, coming back, having conversations. That was part of this piece, having conversations with him. This was all new information to him at 60, right? This is first time he's ever hearing any of these things. So one thing I had to decide was that I could not fault my parents, my grandparents, my great grandparents, because they didn't know. They didn't have it, and here it was. My dad had worked 35 years. He had retired from a career with a pension, which is what he was taught to do. And still at 60 didn't have the information on creating generational wealth for me and my siblings, his grandchildren, right? Just getting that information just here within the last 15 years. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's just so much to unpack there. I'm curious to know, is there something that, even from your personal experience or your experiences working with your clients, is there something that you know is a tried and true strategy method that people don't know a whole lot about, and how they can utilize whatever that is? What's that thing that we don't know that we need to know in order to make any of this work?
I think, like DA said earlier, it's mindset. Everybody that I've dealt with, it has been mindset, right? When I could shut down the social media, and I always use this illustration of a pair of Jordans, right? And I show people what a pair of Jordans can maximize to as an investment for that same $200, what that can look like 5 years from now for you and your family. And I have a simple conversation. There's that number. Here's what the Jordans are. What do you want? Right? Mindset, right? The Jordans are cute and they, that's clean. But would you rather than have these shoes have this amount of money or these resources or access for your children, your family, whatever, to be able to do these things?
So I'm gonna say something else, but in reference to your Jordan stat, we actually had this conversation with some kids at the school. And in 1984, when Jordan first signed with Nike, I think stock in Nike was like 58 cents a share. And if you would have bought $1,000 worth of Nike share in 1984, you have seven figures right now, because Nike, the last time I looked, it was like 180 something a share. When you think about the compound interest that you would gain over that time frame, I mean, that was about 39 years ago. It would be crazy. But even what I said earlier, the consumership versus ownership.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if there's a hack or like a secret, because when it comes to money, it's about the discipline and the intentionality. But I'll just use this example of what I want to say. Mikhail, as you know, I'm in Birmingham, Alabama, and if you're a basketball fan, the NCAA tournament, we're hosting one of the first round matchups, and so it's going to be a ton of people in the city for the game. Everybody's excited. So just for role play purposes, Mikhail, if you were a diehard college basketball fan and you were in town, and I was going to take you to the game so you can go see your favorite team play, but I came, we got there late, and we're rushing to get in. When we enter the arena, what is the first thing you're going to do?
Enter the arena. First thing I would do.
If
I'm gonna check the score. I'm gonna check the score. See who's yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing when it comes to money. A lot of times we may not be in the situation we want to be in, and we're scared to face it, whether that's credit, budget, or whatever. So I think knowing the score and the steps that we talk to our clients about it, as far as knowing the score before you begin everything, before you say I need to save this amount of money or I need to do this, pull your last 90 days of bank statements. If you want to see what's important to you, check that bank statement, and that's going to show you.
Woo, y'all preaching. Y'all on my toes. Mind y'all business. Mind your business.
And so from there, you're going to identify where your dollars go.
Yeah.
Categorize those transactions. And then you know how much you spend. And then from there, you got to set meaningful but doable goals. Mm-hmm. Right? If you see the last 3 months, I've averaged spending $1,000 dining out every month. And then you say, I'm going to create a budget where I'm only going to spend $150. That might not be doable that first month, because you've created a lifestyle that you're used to, unless you're about to go meal prep and plan, and so that's where we start. Find meaningful but doable numbers. And then you find a systematic approach to facing that budget. Early on, I would say weekly. My wife and I sit down. Tuesdays are typically our day to go through the budget, because that's your transactions from the weekend have gone through. Mm-hmm. And we look at not only what's come out, but what are we forecasting, because each month is different. You don't spend more money in December around the holidays than you may spend in March, right? So we every month face the month as it, not face the month as it's coming. We're proactive in looking out, to see what's going on. Like right now we're in April, about to get in May. As April comes, just to make sure we're on the right page. So that would be the steps I would tell people to start with.
Yeah.
Let me just say this. This show is over, because we're gonna have to just go ahead and shut all of this down, because y'all have just given us everything. You talk about y'all don't know the hacks. That's intentionality. This is what you need to do. Y'all need to be looking at your stuff. And I just, when you said that, I thought, I don't want to. I mean, I'm being serious. Like, I don't want to, because I know what it's going to say. And then I have to face where I've been spending my money for the past 90 days. And I want to look at that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to change my own mindset about looking at my bank statements.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We take a deep breath on that one. Where's my water?
I mean, it almost sounds like getting to a place of acceptance, right? And like I've learned that acceptance is it's not a valuation of it being good or bad. Acceptance is it just is, right? When you think of anyone, shout out to anyone in any type of recovery for any type of addictions, right? Like the first step is just acknowledging whatever your issue is. And from that place of acknowledgement and acceptance, then you can move forward. Like you can try to avoid the fact that you overspend, and that's the way that you comfort yourself, right? Because you're not protecting your healing environment. You can try to avoid that, but it doesn't take away the fact that that's still a challenge for you. Yep. So yeah, y'all are preaching. I've heard both of you use this word discipline. How do you define discipline? I would say like universally. And does that definition change when you apply it to money?
For me, discipline, in very short, is making the right choice to reach your goal, right? One of the things I do, I don't buy combo meals anymore. I refuse. I sit behind people in the line at the drive-thru, and that stuff is still on the screen. And when I see $15 for a combo meal, it just does something to me, right? And so, my discipline is I have choices, right? I have the choice to get the combo meal, or I have the choice to order the small fry, which used to be the medium fry, but now they call it small. The small fry and the double stack for $3.89, right? And then I have my bottle of water in my car with me. And so, because I have a goal, I have somewhere that I'm trying to get to. And so for me, that's the discipline, right? Just making the best choice for where I'm trying to be.
I was tempted to Google the definition of discipline because I just want to see what it said, but I would define it as, for me specifically, doing what I know I'm supposed to, even when I don't feel like it.
Come on.
Right. I mean, when I'm talking to people about money, I'm always using the example of the gym, right? Because you have to go through resistance every time you go into the gym in order to get some positive impact. And then when you get to the point where I'm not sore anymore, I can handle this weight or this, then you got to go a higher level in order to get to a higher level of results, whether you feel like it or not. So that's how I define it.
Y'all must have some microphones in my house. We have these conversations all the time. The discipline and the spending, thinking about, what does this look like today? Where are we trying to go? We got to pay this debt. Like, these conversations are frequent. And I mean, and needed. I mean, if we're not talking about it, then we are absolutely not doing anything about it. So we have the conversation. Where are we trying to go? Where is it that we want to see ourselves in 10 years? My husband is on this, I am retiring in 10 years. I am retiring in 10 years. So whatever got to happen within the next 5, it's got to be the setup, because I am retiring in 10 years. I don't know what you doing, but I am going to retire in 10 years. And I'm thinking, okay. I mean, I'm on the same page. I'm in the same book. I might not necessarily be on the same page all the time, but we are definitely in the same book. So y'all are preaching something here today. So I appreciate it.
I have a quick question to that. How do you guys define retirement?
In multiple ways. So being one way, we're definitely zero debt or very little debt, if any at all. We really don't want any debt. And then just having the room to just do the things that, traveling, just doing some things we want to do. Making sure that we have a trust, and we've done estate planning, all that stuff. All those things are set up so that when those times come, that it's there. It's all laid out. There's no questions about it. So, I mean, we think about it in multiple ways, or we define it in multiple ways.
Gotcha. I'm just curious because you said 10 years I'm retiring in.
Well,
I like to learn.
Listen, he got a plan. And he's sticking to that plan. I have heard nothing other than 10 years. Count down to retirement. I get it.
That's a blessing.
Being disciplined, as y'all as y'all stated, and I feel like that discipline also pairs with consistency. There's a pastor that I love, Pastor Jerry Flowers. He said consistency is discipline on repeat. So like,
come on,
Jamille, it's not just going through the drive-through one time and making that choice. It's like making the right choices towards your goal every time.
Yep.
Consistent.
Because the one time you stumble, that could trigger. It's easy when you do it one time. Well, that didn't hurt. That tasted so good. Let me do it again this one time.
Right.
And then yep. Nah, that's good, Mikhail. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
And eventually you get to the point where you don't desire it as much. I love shoes. Could be classified as the shoeaholic. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and I got to a point where one day we were moving and you get tired of packing stuff. And I was like, I'm just gonna throw some of these shoes out. This just don't have time. And but I regularly bought shoes, like regularly as the seasons changed. And when the move, how many I threw out, how much that cost, I just got to the point where I said, I'm done buying shoes every season, right? Nobody remembers what I had on last spring anyway.
That part. Yes.
So there we go, right? And so now I'm at the point where I don't even miss those things. I'm not running to see what's coming out, right? They all hurt anyway. My mindset is, when is it time for me to get my new insoles from my chiropractor for my shoes so that they can all give me comfort, right? Because you get to a point where cute is cute, but comfort is cuter than cute.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You get to a point where some things, you don't miss them anymore once you know what the goal is and you're working toward it.
Right.
And then you hate to be disciplined and work through all of that and then just blow it, because then you feel a certain type of way. Like, man, I worked so hard and now I just gave it up and got to start over.
Yeah.
Right.
You both have kind of talked about this idea of generational wealth. So I'm just curious if you all can kind of unpack that a little bit more. The idea of how do we build this generational wealth? What's the difference between being rich and being wealthy? Like, what does all of that mean?
To me, I'll preface it that way. When I think about the term rich, or I think about if someone is rich, to me, I'm just thinking about monetary value, high paying job, a lot of money. Depending on what someone's standards is, but when I think about the term wealth, I think about from a monetary standpoint, and I'm gonna tell you what wealth means to me. But I think is more than just money. Is assets. Is things that can be passed. And as you think about terms, wealth transfer, generational wealth, I think is someone amassing these things over time that they can pass along to their loved ones, or charities or things of that nature. How I define wealth, especially, I'm a millennial, so I'm still relatively young, but I think the space I'm in life, what's wealthy to me is things that money can't provide, can't buy. So like that's family, that's my time, that's peace. My daughter may say something to me and I'm just like, man, I'm so wealthy, so that's how I define it. But just in regards to finances, I think wealth is something that can be transferred and passed along, where I feel like rich is just monetary value. Money can be passed now, don't get me wrong.
Right. Well, yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, for me, rich, like DA said, to me, I think about monetary things. I also think about rich is how other people see you.
Okay.
And wealth is, what are you doing to improve and help the people around you? Right?
Okay.
So for me, when I think about generational, right, I have a 2-year-old. Okay. My husband and I made sure that, we got life insurance on us. We're going to die. Everybody's going to check out. Right. And so to know the peace of mind that we have with the comfort that if we do check out for her, she's going to be fine. And the ease and the comfort of knowing that allows me, like DA said, to embrace the moments right now, right? When she wants to go outside and play soccer in the front yard, we got a little ball, we trying to do something. I can allow myself to stop my time, right, to go and take advantage of those moments, because I'm realizing very quickly how fast they go by and how you can't get those things back. And losing a parent early, I know how important those things are to me. That's all I have left are my memories. It doesn't matter that she didn't leave me $1, but the wealth comes in what I have left from the time she was able to share with me. And so when I think about rich and wealthy, right, because I always think about, why do we buy the stuff we buy? Why do we get Gucci bags? It's no different between a Gucci bag and a Walmart purse. They both gonna carry money. But it's what other people, how they view us, right? And they not giving me $1. Do you hear me? To look at these shoes.
They may give you a Facebook
purse,
shout out when you go.
right?
That's it.
There's no. So rich for me is for other people. Wealthy is what are we doing to build and lift up and even create opportunities for others.
I'm still in that too, by the way, Miss Jamille.
Still away. Go ahead.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. That's real interesting, because I think sometimes even I see it a lot in generation. What are they? X? Z. Z's. Z. I'm X. What am I talking about? So where they're focused on this rich lifestyle, or the lifestyle that looks a certain way, and I have to
Image.
even the image is everything, even if everything they have on is knockoffs. They don't care. I got on a Gucci belt and Fendi shoes and whatever, all these things to say, look at me, look at this image that I'm portraying, that I'm rich, that I have all these things. And I just wondered, like, that where does that disconnect? Like, what happened? Like, what is the thing that they need to know as really young people? Like right now, in their 20s and their teens, like, what do they need to know? I know, the mindset thing for sure, but what is it that they're not necessarily seeing, or they're not making a connection with, or, they're not seeing that generational piece?
My first thought, I feel like I'm doing rapid fire again. Based on young people that I've talked to and met with, is social media.
Internet
like
influence.
Yeah, we're more of a microwave society where we want it right now. And even when I was young, there were people that mentored me or that I looked up to, and feedback that I used to get from them was like, what you didn't see is when I was your age, I was in this situation, and this over time you got to put work in, and I'm just now starting to experience those types of things. Like some of the relationships that I have and I'm able to benefit from now started from 10 years of work put in, so I would say that, because even in my conversations with younger people, like, they shared things like, I just feel like I'm behind. I see such and such doing this online, and but you just see what they place on a camera. Most of the time on the internet, we're putting the best version of ourselves on there.
Yeah. If we could go back to 7-Eleven and the Sears catalog, we all be out here looking the same.
Somebody.
Right. Right. So true.
Black and white TV, right? Like, I don't know what you got on.
So and it doesn't even matter, but it does. In some instances, it does to some kids, some of the younger folks.
Dripping on the outside, but broke on the inside.
Oh, broke down.
Not just the young folks. It'd be folks my age plus. But
the parents.
Yes.
I mean, because I think the parents are setting that mindset, for them. And I think sometimes because they do work and grind so hard, they feel like there's value in just giving things to their kids since they can't have time. Where if they could simply get the mindset of the shift of how to use money as a tool to get your time, then, we can add more value there for the kids.
That's a word. That is a word.
Because that's the thing. Like, a lot of people make a lot of money. I mean, real talk. Just in my years of experience with people, sometimes I had to tell people, do you know that you make $80,000 a year? Like, where is it? I don't know where it is. I don't see it. I said, you don't even have 10% of that in a savings account, right? And I tell people, going back to mindset, I always say, think about how hard you work for your money, how you either sit in that cubicle or you pass that coworker you don't like, or You own your own dump truck company and you out here in the rain, sleet. You know what I'm saying? How hard
Mhm.
do you work for your money for you not to have it and not know where it is? Right?
Mm,
McDonald's cannot have my money.
mm.
Right? Jordan cannot have my money when I think about how hard I have to work
Mhm.
to get those funds. Nah, you just can't have it.
Yep.
Mhm.
You just
And
can't have it.
Yeah.
great,
And
great,
I
great
like
point.
nice things, but
Yeah.
we've talked about strategy. There's a
There you go.
strategy
Yep.
for
That's what I
the
was just about to say.
right.
I didn't want our listeners.
I
I'm
love
sorry.
to travel. I travel all the time, but there's a strategy for
Right.
how I travel, right? To do things that I enjoy and that my family likes, but that just kind of goes back to the mindset and the plan. It's okay to have the things that you desire. Like God has a plan for our life, and we just have to follow the plan and the strategy and do the work to be able to get to those things.
Yeah. I was just about to say, for listeners, we're not saying don't buy anything. We're saying have a plan.
Mhm.
Create.
Mhm.
For myself, I like shoes and I still buy them, but I create some type of. I have to accomplish something to get these shoes, and then that's my reward.
Mm.
So I can get the shoes after I paid myself first and made sure I saved, and if it's something left over from just the strategy that we have, as you
Come
alluded to,
on.
Jamil, now
Yeah.
I can get these shoes, and that feels good because I've earned
Yeah.
it, and I don't have buyer's remorse.
Yes. And
Man,
when the
I could have paid a
stress,
Mm.
bill with that or a credit card. It's like, nah,
Mm-hmm.
that's
when
already
the
paid now
stress
because I got
is
strategy.
gone from money, it's fun. When the stress is gone, it's fun. It's fun.
Mm.
Mm.
It's fun for to watch, the growth. It's fun to have experiences. When the stress, right, due to the strategy and the discipline is gone, it's fun.
Mm. Hmm.
Money
Lord.
is fun. Y'all heard that?
Yeah.
Money is fun
And
Yeah.
money is fun.
So for
with
the
a
listener,
strategy.
for the listener right now that's saying like how, right? Like can't even conceive that because just like they come from an environment of just living tight, right? Caretakers did the best they could with what they had. They're living paycheck to paycheck, maybe some poor choices, not knowing how to even formulate a plan or a strategy. Like what is your just initial response to the listeners, like how can I relieve myself of the weight that doesn't make money fun? I have a lot of fear with money. I have a lot of lack of impulse control with money. How can I get a strategy and a plan?
I would say, and shout out to the team. We were talking about this in a meeting, team meeting not too long ago. But action is greater than the amount.
Mhm.
You
Mm.
got to get started. You don't ever get in the game. You're guaranteed not to score.
Mm.
Right. So even when it comes to, I've heard people say, "Well, I want to start investing, but I don't have enough." What do you mean? You can invest $10. You can invest $20. I know you got that if you're eating. So yeah, I think just getting started. Action is greater than the amount, and what we try to do with our clients is our pillars of our organization. It's even on somewhere wherever the logo is up under here. It says exposure, education, execution, and in that order because our job is to expose you, or for people listening, you can expose yourself. You have this thing called YouTube University. I don't have all the answers, but what I'm talking about, general principles. But please speak with a financial professional if you need to. But exposing yourself to the information that will give you insight, and then you can receive the education once you've been exposed, and then at that point you're ready to execute.
And learning to take advantage of there are things I feel like people don't know they have access to, but they
Yep.
do. Every bank across the globe has a free financial literacy program. So if you got your money at the bank, you walk in the bank and say, "Hey, I need to make better choices with my money. I need to come up with a plan." Because they're holding your money, they can give you access to the financial literacy that every bank provides, right?
Mhm.
And that goes back to action. We teach a 7 week financial literacy course. It is completely free to everybody. It doesn't matter. It's a hybrid, so it's online and in person. And so I think, just as simply as you can Google the latest Louis bag, the newest Christian
Come on.
Louboutin, huh?
Come on.
I can Google every time I got a question. I go to Google. Like, these kids don't even know how blessed they are to have every answer in the world that they want to know. Okay,
Mhm.
I go to Google and say, how much do I need to start with an investment? How can I raise my credit score? Like every answer, and I think sometimes we miss it because we'll devote so much time, right, looking up the movie tickets or Googling what's getting ready to come out next, when we don't Google the things to help improve ourselves.
That's so
I-
powerful.
I would double down on your statement in regards to the bank, and just the access you can have at certain banks. I would also recommend any listeners, wherever you hold your money, whoever you bank with, build a relationship with somebody at the bank. Right? What the place that all of your dollars go, if you don't know the name of one of the supervisors or employees there, help. How does that make sense, right? And real life experience, I had a check that, it was okay amount, but it wasn't anything alarming. Shouldn't have been alarming to the bank, and the bank would not accept the check. And then the person who wrote the check, he had a relationship with his bank, and when I called him, he said, hold on. He called his banker on three-way. The banker said, can I speak to the person that you're in front of? 35 seconds later, I had access to the funds. Power of relationships. And where you hold your money, it should definitely be a relationship there. So you said bank, it just made me think about that.
Yeah, I mean, they're there to service you, and I think we don't know that, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think we know they work for me. I'm giving them money.
100%,
They work
100%.
for me. Y'all think I'm playing when I go in the bank and I give me 10 ink pens because they mine. I didn't pay for them. They mine.
And let me get this lollipop for my daughter.
Let's circle back to wealth, though, right? Bringing the next person up, helping the next person in the community. You know what I do with my 10 pens I get from the bank? Give it to the girl that work at TGI Fridays. Because when you go to restaurants, what they always looking for, a pen. So now she got 10 good, the pens from the bank, they write good, they sweet.
Right.
She got 10 good pens, right? Because the bank is a service to me. Y'all holding my money, you work for me. So I'm gonna take these pens and I'm gonna give it to her so she can make this money today at TGI Fridays. Hello, and we all can win.
Well, okay, so since you guys are on this topic of financial institutions, so one of the things I think, especially within our community, is it's a lack of trust within your financial institution, and some of it is, I mean, it's just historical. We've had all sorts of issues with systems, but can we trust our financial institutions, and especially given what is currently happening right now with a few of the banks in California? Can we trust these financial institutions? And why shouldn't we use them as advisors or to help us with our investments or estate planning? Or is maybe there another way in which we need to think about the people that we ask to help us with our investing and financial planning? But can we trust the banks?
I think so. My answer is going to be yes, but you also have to have a vetting process. I think, like Jamille said, they work for us. So what is that interview process? Right? Even as a financial professional, my first meeting with someone is always going to be called an initial consultation. Not just for me, but for them. I want them to see and understand, be able to make a decision based on the information I give, based on our firm's principles. Is this someone that matches, is a good fit for me to help coach me or counsel me or advise me on my finances? And the same thing, I've had meetings where we mutually agreed that we didn't need to work together. I've had some that went fantastic, but I think you gotta vet the situation, ask good questions, even with the bank. Don't just let them tell you what account you should have. What all accounts do you guys offer? What is your current interest rate for savings accounts? None of them are really high, but that is a question to ask. What happens if X happens? What's your email? Can I contact you? And I definitely the same when you think about financial professionals. What are going to be the deliverables that you're looking to get accomplished, and how can they provide them? I think you just got to vet it versus just blindly opening an account and not knowing what it is.
And financial literacy circles back here too. And I think this all goes back to Googling and the desire to want to know. One of the things I was reading before, just kind of getting ready for this session, was 47% of people of color don't have mainstream banking, which means they're underbanked. So that means they're either living off a check cash in place or they're living off a chime card. 47, that's almost one in two people of color.
Wow.
And so we have to look at, why is that? Like, why is it that you're not going into a mainstream bank? Why is it that you feel like using a chime card to manage your finances is okay, right? Do you just not know? Is that the only thing that you're exposed to in your community? So that goes back to that financial literacy piece, and also that Google component, right? What kind of bank can I use, for my money, but being able to ask those questions and get access to those resources to, kind of shift that mindset. And Candace said earlier, it costs a lot of money to be poor, right? And when I think about check cashing places, it's expensive, right?
300-400%
have
sometimes.
your money in a financial institution.
Yeah.
But I definitely agree with DA. I mean, it's just like with anything. You going on a job interview, you got to vet the folks that's going to work for you and that you're going to have relationships with, especially, we're talking about one of our most valuable assets.
Yeah.
That's what I was about to say is, you think about the role we play in people's lives. You mentioned insurance aspect. We have an insurance division. So if someone has a death in their family and I'm the agent, I'm probably going to be second, third phone call after they talk to family. When it comes to, I've been told by a wife that they were expecting before the husband knew. But that was because it was like she was thinking about financial side of it. Like, hey, we about to need you. We got a baby coming. And so, when you're working with somebody around their finances, you kind of share in the triumphs and the hardships, and making sure there's a plan there. So you want that to be someone that not only you can trust, but that, in my opinion, that you enjoy getting an opportunity to talk to. You don't want to feel like, oh, I got to talk to this person today.
That's the fun. That's the fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to have somebody's going to be honest with you. And just have some principles. So yeah, it's definitely important.
I love that.
Dia, you had mentioned a couple of questions ago, you mentioned investing, and you were like, you got $10 to $20 you can invest. So for both of you, I think so many people think of investing in the stock market as like a secret society for like certain types of people that may not look like any of us here on this Front Porch episode. So is investing a secret society for certain types of people, or can everyone participate in the stock market? And if so, how can we get in the game?
And so I said something earlier. I slipped my mind. But to answer your question, yes. It's not a secret society. I think I said language of money. Right. I think it feels like it because there are terms when you turn it to CNBC, or you go on Charles Schwab and go on their website. There may be terms that you're like, I don't know what that means. What is that? What is this? And so even the language of money, and what I enjoy about the financial literacy piece that we do as a firm is breaking things down so that they understand it. We have fourth graders that we talk to about credit scores, and we tell them it's your adult GPA. What happens if you come home with an A? My mama, give me some candy, give me some money. What happens if you have an F? I get a whooping. They'll say something like that. And we show them the spectrum of a credit score. This is an A, this is a B. And we say, okay, what about even high schools? If you have a C grade point average, can you pass the next class? Yes, but can you choose what college you want to go to, or is it going to be hard to get in some? It's going to be hard. So if you have a C average credit score, you can get access to something, but you're going to pay more for it. So I know you asked about investing, but that's just examples of breaking the language barriers down, so that there is an understanding to it. But I think where you start is, one, when you think about an investment, the definition of an investment is you're putting money towards something with the intention of getting a return on your money. Right. But I think before you just jump in and invest in something, don't take your cousin saying, hey, you need to buy stock in this. You need to determine what you have the capacity to do and what's your time horizon for accessing these funds.
Okay.
Right. You don't want to get into your 401k and 3 years later you're pulling that out to go get some Jordans or a car. That's an account. It's called qualified. That means you're supposed to access this at a certain age after 69 and a half, and there's penalties for taking it out early. So I think determining one, what your capacity is, no matter how little or big it is, and then determine your time horizon. And then that kind of plays process of elimination, because based on the time you would like to access these funds, that'll minimize the list of types of investments that are out there, or investment products that are out there, and you can go from there. But I would definitely speak with a professional, whether it be a coach, consultant, or somebody on a higher level. If you're just trying to get in the game, you hear the term financial advisor or wealth management advisor. Some of those individuals, they're going to want to talk to people that are in certain tax brackets or have a certain amount of what's called investable assets. But I think the basics of it, someone like Jamille, you might say, I don't want to talk about investments. I don't know, but just someone in a space that's teaching financial education can talk to you about the principles. I think it's still a financial literacy topic as well,
Well, DA be real deep, and y'all know I be real kindergarten.
Best of both worlds.
So here's what I tell when my clients walk in, and because we have to get to a point of investment, right? We're developing what we call a financial portfolio. I use another word called a spending plan. That's what we're doing. We're developing a spending plan for, where do you want to be in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20, right?
Right.
And so when I talk to people about investments, that word kind of, scares people, right? It's not familiar. It's not something they hear day to day. I tell them an investment is a savings account where someone is saving with you. If you go to the bank and put your money in a savings account, you're the only person saving. When you are putting your money in an investment account, someone else is saving, matching funds, that type of thing. For you, it's pretty much the same, right? I'm saving money, whether it's at the bank or at the investment bank. I call that an investment bank. But over here at the investment bank, somebody going to save with me. We're working as a team to grow money. When I'm just saving at my regular bank, there's no team members. It's just me and my money. So, when I talk about investment, that's kind of my kindergarten version of how that, the mindset, right? Because we're still talking about mindset. People here save all the time. We started this conversation out about saving. We had a piggy bank at 4. We know about saving. So here's an opportunity for me to save money with someone else.
That's good. That's good.
So I'm kind of curious what, we're talking about investments and all of that and assets. So I'm just kind of curious because there's so many ways in which we think about assets and value, and ownership. And you talked about ownership versus consumership and all that. So I'm curious to hear you all's thoughts on the value of home ownership. Does it still carry the same weight, the same value? Does it, does it still, I mean, it gives people all the feels and all that, but I mean, is it as important as it used to be? Is it considered an asset to own a home?
Well, since I'm a real estate professional, I'm gonna jump in on that.
Come on. I got something too. Hey, come on.
And so, as DA would start the question, yes, it is still good. It is still good. I tell people all the time, my real estate clients, I say, owning property has been around since George Washington, right? It's not going to go anywhere. It has been here since the beginning of civilization, before him, right? Before him. But the value in owning a piece of land, a piece of property is that, from the 1800s, this is like a guarantee on a return that it is going to constantly increase. We watched it, and so I tell people all the time, and we're going to circle back to how we talked about earlier about how hard you work for your money. And I do a comparison with people, ownership versus renting and leasing. And, I'll show people a house and I'll say, $20,000 a year. You have to have somewhere to live, period. We all know that, right?
Yeah.
You either living in a tent or you living in a structure. And so, if you own a home, right, we've talked about it, investment. You're saving money. You're living in a place and you're saving money for, like DA says, a period of time, right? When your time horizon comes to collect, you're just saving money, right? If you decide to rent or lease, it's going to be that same $20,000. And this goes back to mindset. How hard did you work for it? You're giving that money to someone else to take a vacation, take their kids to Disney, buy the latest Jordans. So I tell people, ask yourself, do you want to fund somebody else's future or do you want to fund your own? And so in owning property, that is definitely a type of investment where we've seen since the beginning of time that it's going to continue to increase in value.
I'm glad Jamille was deep there because I'm gonna be brief. My realtor shared this with my wife and I, and he shared it in a presentation that I saw him do not too long ago. So shout out Justin Williams, Just in Time Realty. I give him a shout out for this. But homeowners, according to the Federal Reserve, homeowners have a 40 times higher net worth than renters.
Yep.
That's my answer.
Okay.
Boom.
I think there's a time and place to rent, but yeah, it does. It's still a valuable asset.
Yeah.
You get on land and they're not making any more of that. So
Okay. So go out and, y'all heard them, audience, go out and get you a little piece of property, get you some land somewhere, figure out where that's going to be. Invest, save your pennies, change your mindset. Look, I got it. I'm put it all down. I got notes.
Well, and also I just want to share this. I had a client one time where some sisters and their father had bought 40 acres of land for $500. Swamp land, no value in it to him, right, at the time. Here we were now selling 30 years after when the father had purchased. Wow. And it was some kind of reserve that was some kind of nature reserve coming into that area, right? And you talking about big money, right? Yeah. And there was nothing to do. All they've done is pay $26 a year on taxes on 40 acres of land. That is it. And when you talk about got paid, right? Yes. And so even and this goes back to consulting with a professional, but also what DA said, they ain't making no more land. So when you see it and it's for sale and you feel like it's at a fair market value price, even if it may be a little over at this moment, all we can see is what time has done, right, to show increase. I think about when you look at stores now, Walmarts and Dollar Generals, if you really know what was there before that, a lot of that was farmland.
Especially Dollar General.
Yeah, especially Dollar General. You can tell where they build the Dollar Generals at. And you talking about money, right? Yeah.
Land. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay for the land.
Whew, child.
Listen, I know, right?
See, y'all already changing mindset. Y'all getting excited.
We need a part 2.
For real. For real.
Man.
I feel in my spirit there are listeners that are like, I would love to work with someone like Jamille. I would love to work with someone like DA. I would love to work with someone for Black people specifically. I'm not even going to do the catch-all people of color. I'm talking about Black folks specifically. I would love to work with someone who looks like me, someone who is so relatable, someone who's down to earth, someone who's going to share their experience and their stories as like a learning tool for me. Is there a directory of like how can Black folks find Black financial advisors, consultants, coaches, like across the nation? Like, y'all gonna give your information, we're gonna link it, right? But like, where would people? Jamille might say Google it, but be able to say and do an initial consult with them, vet them. But is there like a place? How?
I'll be honest, for me, I found mine at church. I was 29, and a lot of the deacons at our church, do something. That's why they deacons, right? They're connected to something. And so that's where, like, my church offered a financial literacy class. When I got there, I met the financial advisor, right? He was a member of the church. I did not spend $1 to discuss, anything with him to acquire financial literacy. And then that person was able to connect me to my tax professional. That person connected me to my Black attorney. That person connected me with my Black insurance agent, right? Yeah. And so now for me, my people that come through and that's what they're looking for, I connect them based on that network that connected me. So for me, it was at church.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was trying to think of a place you could just go search that, they have, different networks or different like groups here and there. But I think to Jamille's point is relationships. And, I will say that, while it's growing a lot. I have 10 plus years in financial services now. That's wild, even saying that. But anyway, we still make up less than 1% of the market.
Yeah.
And so for me, that's why I'm so passionate about this. My wife said this a while back. She, this was years ago when I was first beginning. She was like, I know you like this because the amount of your passion for it is not tied to the amount of money you're making. And that's really the driver of what forces people out of this business, especially look like us. They will be passionate about it. They see the benefit of it. But for us, there's just this level of education we have to provide, even to Black people that make a lot of money, before they will move forward on things. And so you just gotta survive that window. And I know that's not what you're asking, but I think even the way Jamille explained it, like all those things were relationship based, right? She met somebody at church. There was probably already some trust established, right? And once they connected, he was able to point her out to people. And you guys know the power of relationships. If Mikhail tells me I need to speak with somebody, like I'm gonna call them that day.
Yeah.
Because of how solid of a relationship that I've been able to build with Mikhail, and so. I would say I would tell somebody, if that's what they're thinking towards, and they don't want to come to IMC Financial Consulting,
Mhm.
to think about someone that they maybe admire from a professional standpoint, and just maybe take and grab a cup of coffee and maybe outline some of the things you're trying to accomplish and what are the best things to do.
Mm.
I know we do everything on, phones and texting and stuff, but I think it's good to sometimes still get in front of people, look them in their eyes, and
That's good.
be able to speak as adults to each other.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I
That's
like
good.
that.
Good question.
And like
Very
DA
good question.
said, those relationships are so important. I remember when we were starting our business, right? And everybody know you get nervous. You don't want to go to the bank and ask for money because they're gonna tell you no, right? You gotta have a business plan, gotta have all that. But based on relationships, I had met the VP of the bank who didn't do business loans, right? He ran the bank, but that relationship was a phone call to the commercial lender that said, "Hey, they're good, whatever, just make it happen."
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And even me, a person who, financial literacy, financial literate, have taken care of my business as far as it comes to finance, I was still nervous to go to the bank and ask for money, and it was crazy because it's like the money I was asking for, I really already got in assets, but I need to borrow yours because I got to do some things.
It was
Uh-huh.
let me leverage your dollars. Yeah.
But I think from a cultural standpoint, right? Like I was nervous, but the relationship brought that ease. And what was so crazy is that the only reason I knew him was because I had gone to that financial literacy class and he had presented. Like I didn't like know him, right? I just was in the class. And so definitely establishing those relationships kind of open gateways to other areas too.
That's so good. That's so good.
Man, this has been. Listen,
I know.
I don't even know what to say. This
We
has
didn't have to
been.
about legacy planning.
I know. We're so like over time, and we absolutely appreciate you all spending the few extra minutes. And we didn't get to that one question about legacy planning, which is important. I know, Jamil, you talked about the whole idea of like we gonna check out, so we gonna have to come up with some kind of plan for what we're gonna do, what we're gonna leave, how we're gonna take care of folks. And maybe that's just some stuff that we can resources or some things that we can share with the
either of you
listeners,
have
with the audience.
Do either of you have 4.5, maybe 5 minutes more?
Yeah, you said legacy planning, so what I want to hear that question. Actually, I think.
Candace,
Oh,
you
okay.
4.5 to 5 minutes?
Yes.
Planning question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's fit that in. That's important.
Okay, so what's that question?
Yes. What is legacy planning and how do we begin and maintain the plan?
Okay. When I think about legacy planning, a script comes to mind. Habakkuk 2 verses 2 through 4. Write the plan, write the vision, make it plain.
Mhm,
If you go on to verse 4, it says the vision is for an appointed time. And so I think that's where you start. And to me, you outline what is the legacy I want to leave while I'm here. And then I'm gonna give another shout out my business partner Isaac Cooper. He talks about any type of protection planning, insurance, estate planning, long-term planning is showing your loved ones that you love them without being able to see their reaction to it. All right. So I think you write that plan out, as we've said plan probably 20 times. You create a plan and you create a strategy to execute it, but you also get your financial house in order in the event that you're no longer going to be here as well. And then you got a plan in place for why you're here to go execute. And then when you transition, because it's 100%, but we don't know when that's going to be, right? But when that time comes, if we have our ducks in a row, the overall plan is executed. And your great great grandkids know who you are because of the things you did for your family.
Yeah.
I love it.
And I think, looking back over time, we've said a lot about mindset. And I can remember when my grandmother passed away and them talking about, we got enough. We had the burial policy. That's enough to put it in the ground, right? But that's it. I don't get nothing. It's nothing. We just gonna put it in the ground, right? So there's enough for that. And really what's so sad is what I've seen in our culture. We don't even have a burial policy anymore. We're doing GoFundMe's.
Don't get me started. Don't get me
Try
started.
to put in the ground, and just from then I'm gonna say it because I'm gonna say it. If we struggling trying to get 19 grand to put somebody in the ground, what's wrong with spending $1 grand to turn them into some ashes and investing 18 grand for some legacy on out, right? And I know to each his own with that. But when you're talking about strategy and creating generational wealth and establishing that, right? You taking 19 grand to put somebody in the ground, but what happens when the next person died? Now you need 19 more grand to put somebody else in the ground, right? So, mindset over time has definitely shifted. And like we talked about the microwave right now. But like you said, legacy planning is about thinking about what's later, right? I'm going to do what I'm going to do while I'm here. I am. And I'm going to make sure those things happen. I'm going to take care of those. But what is it that I want for my daughter? What is it that I want for her kids? And check this out, right? Because I talked about earlier the people around you. What do I want in place for her network, right? When I leave the company for her, I want to ensure that the network is going to continue to grow too, and not just her.
You said something. I saw a stat last week. Speaking of leaving something behind, the stat was 40% of business owners do not have a transition plan in place. You put all of your blood, sweat, and tears into something, and there's not even anything in place to say your kids don't want to take over the company. What's the plan? So again, we get so caught up in the now that it's easy to not think about later, but it comes fast. I think we talked about kids earlier, and it was like the time goes by so fast. Same thing. You're gonna look up, and it's 10 years have passed by.
Yeah.
So,
I love this has been wonderful. It just makes me think about so many different things and so many different ways in which we need to think about our money and financial health and wellness, and how that really impacts so many other aspects of our lives and the folks around us, their lives as well. And so there's just so much to learn, so much to unpack. I know we are totally way over time, but I absolutely appreciate just all of the wisdom that you all have shared, because you've given me a lot to think about, and I'm sure that our listeners will have a lot to think about, and hopefully will find themselves a financial planner or advisor or somebody to go talk to. But if they cannot find somebody in their own area, if they can't find somebody in their own area, there are two people on the Front Porch podcast who I'm sure
right now
can help you with all of your financial planning.
Yes, coast to coast. We all around the globe. Now that Zoom is a thing, it doesn't matter.
That's it. We are email away.
That's all. Text, DM.
How can people reach out to you, Jamille?
So I'm on all social media platforms. Jamille Thomas is who I am out there. Thomas Legacy Services is, of course, our company. So if you Google either one of those, you'll find us. It's not too many Jamilles out here. I've learned. I should be like Beyonce. I should just go by the first name. Just Jamille.
When you go by your first name, that's when you made it. When everybody knows who you are by your first name.
And we'll link Jamille's information in the description too. But DA, what about you, good sir?
So the company website is planningimc.com. I'm on all social media platforms as well. Either DA O'Neill or like Instagram, Twitter, DA_O'Neill. And we are available. We got a team of specialists even outside of myself. So we like to think we have someone on our team that's a specialist that can help and meet you wherever you are financially. Because our mantra is I say touch every tax bracket, but we create financial solutions for those in all tax brackets.
I love it. I love it. Thank y'all. This really has been nourishing. Y'all have dropped gems and bars. Thank you for what you're doing, the example that you're setting within your own families and how you're transforming the families that are connected to you. So thank you so much. Thank y'all for listening to this episode of the Front Porch Podcast. Go over your notes and then holla at Jamille and holla at DA to help you plan, strategize, and execute with discipline and get your mindset right.
Right.
See y'all.